Good morning, children. During the last class, we learned about a main topic, atoms and molecules. Atoms and molecules. In this chapter, we are going to study the structure of the atom. These three are the basis of chemistry. What are these three? Atoms, molecules, and above all, the structure of atom. Without studying or without getting a thorough knowledge about the structure of atom, we can't study chemistry. If we wish to study chemistry, first of all, we learn the structure of atom. The last chapter, the previous chapter, we learned what is an atom. Also, we learned Dalton's atoms theory and the molecules. We learned that atoms are the smallest particle of a matter or an element, which shows the properties of that element and independent exists. Similarly, molecules. Molecule is the smallest particle of an element or a compound. You please note the difference. Atoms is the smallest particle of an element only. Nowadays, there are 118 elements. Therefore, 118 atoms. At the same time, molecule means the smallest particle of an element or a compound which have an independent existence, as well as it shows the properties of all the matter or the element or the compound. This is the difference between atom and molecule. Atom means the smallest particle of an element. 118 element, therefore 118 type of atoms only. At the same time, molecule means other 118 elements plus crore and crore number of compounds, matters. All these contain molecules. This is the difference between atoms and molecules. Similarly, the previous chapter, we learned the symbol of an element. 118 elements, 118 symbols. The naming of element is I was learned in the 8th standard. The 9th standard, it comes the names of the element as well as the symbol of the element. You don't need to learn the symbol name and symbol by heart. By the use, several of you use this. Then you will remember on seeing the symbol, it is whether it is sodium or sulfur. So you must learn the name of the element, the symbol of the element, the atom, and above all, the structure of it. In the previous class, we learned the Dalton's atoms theory. John Dalton was the first scientist who used the term atom. And John Dalton also put forward Dalton's atom theory. He also postulated 6 statements. The first statement, the smallest particle is made up of, every substance is made up of very, very tiny particles named atoms. Every substance is made up of very, very small particles named atoms. The second postulate states that these atoms are indivisible It cannot be divided into further parts, indivisible. And the third statement says that in a particular substance or the particular element, the atoms are identical. And in two difference, then they are not similar. Now we are going to pick up the second statement. John Galton states that the atoms are indivisible, but this is an ancient theory. Atoms are divisible, or the atoms are made up of three kinds of fundamental particles. That is the most important. All the atoms are made up of three kinds of or three fundamental particles. The atoms are made up of three fundamental particles. What are they? And where is the position? Who discovered these particles? The earlier experience, the scientist named J.J. Thomson find the presence of a negatively charged particles named electrons. In the same time, another scientist, Goldstein, in a discharge to experiment, he sees some radiations. He called these radiations as canal rays. Canal rays, canal rays. So, you must remember the names of these scientists. First, J.J. Thomson, Goldstein, on discharge to experiment. Goldstein on discharge to experiment, he finds some radiations. He called these radiations as canal rays. These were the flow of, at that time, they can't identify what these radiations. Later, it was clear that these radiations were the flow of the negatively charged particles, namely electrons. Before this, J.J. Thomson also proved that some charged particles are found in every substance. A comb it is rubbed in several times, and he put it on his hands. We can say that there is a change. They attract the skins. So, the J.J. Thomson as well as the Goldstein experiment shows a negative charged particles in every substance. Then the scientist came Rutherford. The scientist Rutherford conducted gold foil experiment. Gold foil. He prepared a very, very thin layer of metal sheet using gold. Then he passed alpha particles, alpha rays through the gold foils. And he find out that out of 12,000 rays, only 1 out of 12,000 rays get rebound by. Some rays take certain variations in their direction, but one ray out of 12,000 rays, it rebound by. He then thought about there is a presence of a minute particle in the center of this gold coil, and later he proved that it was the nucleus. Then he conducted also the scattering of gold coil experiment is also shown in your textbook. You can interpret. It was like this. This is a gold coil. Almost all the rays pass through the gold coil without any change in direction. Almost all the rays pass through it without any change in direction. But some rays struck on the center of an atom found in rebound by. The number of rebound back rays were 1 out of 12,000. He proved the presence of protons in the center of a nucleus. So, let us come to our conclusion. What are the three fundamental particles? Their position and their charge and their weight, etc. First of all, the scientist J.J. Thomson prepared a model of an atom. He proved that the presence of negative charged particles in a spherical space. Later it was, I cannot explain the properties of a matter. Then the scientist named Rutherford also prepared a model of the structure of an atom. This he proved that the center of an atom is nucleus. Inside the nucleus there were protons and neutrons. The electrons are revolving around the nucleus in a circular path. This is the Rutherford model. This model also cannot explain the different satisfactory the properties of matter. The Rutherford model, the scientist Rutherford proved that the center of an atom is nucleus and the electrons are revolving around the nucleus in a circular path. Also he says that while the electrons were revolving around the nucleus, it may radiate energy, then it finally falls into the nucleus. It is not correct. So later this model also, the Rutherford model also rejected. Then came the famous scientist Niels Bohr. Nowadays, in explaining the properties of matter, we depend upon the Bohr model of atom. It satisfactorily explains all the properties as well as the energy levels. Then we can see the first thing, what are the three fundamental particles which the atoms are made up of? Our main aim is also this. What are the or which are the fundamental particles? John Dalton says that In his 6 postulates, John Dalton says that atoms are indivisible. It is an early concept. Later, by explaining the different properties, it was discovered that the atoms are made up of different particles. They are called subatomic particles. The fundamental particles means the subatomic particles. One can see what are subatomic particles. One, the electron. The presence of electron was discovered by the scientist named Edamon. The second fundamental particle is the CNG inside the atom was proton. The presence of this was proved by the scientist named Rutherford. Then, by the stability of the nucleus, the scientist James Chadwick also found out there is another particle inside the nucleus. He named it as neutron. The 3 fundamental particles which the atoms are made up of are proton, electron and neutron. Proton, electron and neutron. You must remember this name. The 3 subatomic fundamental particles means subatomic particles also. The 3 subatomic particles which the atoms are made up of are protons, electrons and neutrons. The presence of protons was discovered by the scientist Rutherford. The presence of electrons was discovered by the scientist Thomson. And the presence of neutrons was discovered by the scientist Chadwick. Then 3 scientists made an attempt to make this where these subatomic particles are found inside the atom. The first attempt made was J.J. Thomson. Second attempts are made by the Rutherford. These 2 attempts made by the scientists J.J. Thomson as well as Rutherford are failed. They can't explain the properties of atom. Later came the scientist named Niels Bohr. These were put forward the model of atom. Nowadays we are following this Bohr model of atom. Bohr model means Niels Bohr model. So, here you have to remember these 3 things, these 2 things. What are the 2 things? What are the or which are subatomic particles present in atom? The subatomic particles or the fundamental particles present in an atom are protons, electrons and neutrons. And who discovered the presence of these particles? The presence of protons was discovered by the scientist named Rutherford. The presence of electrons was discovered by scientist named J.J. Thomson, and the presence of neutrons was discovered by the scientist named Chadwick. Full name James Chadwick. We have used the Chadwick. Then the third thing you have to remember is what are their charges? Electron, negative charge. The charge of electron is negative, and the charge of proton is positive charge, and the charge of neutron is neutral. There is no charge. We have to learn the first thing we have to learn is the names of the fundamental particles. Second thing we have to remember is the names of the scientists who discovered these fundamental particles. Third thing we have to remember is the charges, the electric charges of these fundamental particles. What are the electric charges? You have to remember nevermind, fear, and positive also. Protons, each protons have a positive positive. Each neutron have a unit negative charge. And neutron itself says that it is neutral, no charge. What is the neutral particle present in an atom? The neutral particle present in an atom is neutrons. So that we have learned the third thing also. Next we have to go to the fourth thing. The mass of these particles. The mass of a proton is considered as 1U. 1U means 1 atomic mass unit or 1U. And the mass of a neutron is also considered as 1U. 1U. And the mass of electron is considered as negligible. The mass is also electron is negligible. Considering the mass, comparing the mass of electron to the proton, it is negligible. That means nearly about the mass of proton is 2000 greater than that of an electron. 2000 multiples greater than that of an electron. So the mass of electron is considered negligible. We have to learn the fourth thing. Regarding the subatomic particles, we learn 4 things with each particle. First, the 3. This is the base of chemistry. Atomic structure, atoms. Then comes the properties of the atom. The properties of an element depend upon the structure of the atom. The properties of an element depends upon the structure of it. If we know or if we learn the structure of an atom, we can predict almost all the properties. That means whether the element is a metal or a non-metal, in the chemical reaction whether it is oxidized or reduced. Similarly, its valency, its chemical formula, all can be, we can predict if we learn or if we know the structure of it. Let us go to the structure of it. Let us go to the structure of it. It depends upon Bohr model of atom. The scientist named Niels Bohr says that the center of an atom is called nucleus. The center of an atom is called nucleus. The nucleus contains the center of an atom is called nucleus. The nucleus contains protons and neutrons. And the electrons are revolving around the nucleus in different paths. These different paths are called shells or orbits. This is nucleus. So we have to let us think, what is the center of an atom? The center of an atom is called nucleus. This is the center of an atom is called nucleus. These words were new to you, so you have to use several times and because familiar. The center of an atom is, first we think as the three fundamental particles by which atoms are made up of: protons, neutrons, and electrons. They are not situated in an irregular way. There's a regular opposition, a regular position for each particle. There's also the center of an atom. This is for nucleus. Nucleus contains two particles. They are what are they? Protons and neutrons. So these particles, the protons and neutrons, are inside the nucleus. They are also called nucleons. Nucleus contains proton and neutron. These proton and neutron are also called nucleons. Nucleons. What are nucleons? What are nucleons? The particles present in the nucleus are called nucleus. What are the particles present in the nucleus? Protons and neutrons. Protons and neutrons. Then where are the electrons? The electrons are always revolving around the nucleus in definite path. Indefinite path. Electrons are revolving. This is two electrons. These electrons are revolving around the nucleus in definite paths. These definite paths are called shells. The first shell is called K. It's named K. The second shell is called L. Third shell is called M. And fourth shell is called N. The first shell, which is very near to the nucleus, is called K shell. The second shell, which is very near to the is K shell is L shell. The third shell is also called as M. And the fourth shell is named as K, L, M, N are only the names of the shell. 1, 2, 3, 4 are their number of the shell. Then comes another thing, you don't confuse between the number of the shell and then came the coming classes, you have to put the number of electrons filled in each shell. You don't confuse between these two. K and 1 are same. In your classroom, you have your name as well as that. So you have your number also. For example, that is first the class number or roll number and your name. Similarly, the roll number of 1 is K is 1. Roll number of 1. The roll number of Abhilash 1. The roll number of Anas 2. The roll number of Anandu 3. For Abhilash, Anas and similarly 1K, 2L, 3M, 4. This is your roll number. Then you have to do another thing. You don't have to do. That is in each shell. This paths. These are the paths where electrons are gas received. These paths are called shells. Then the electrons are always revolving around the nucleus in these definite paths. These are called shells. These shells, K and M are called shells. These are also called energy levels. That means the shell K, L, not these two shells are the electron present in the K shell and the electrons present in the L shell have not the same energy. So similar to the electron present in the N shell, electrons present in the N shell. The energy of the different electrons present in these shells are not the same. The electron present in the K shell is a very low energy. The energy of the electrons increases as the diagram is far away from the nucleus. The electron present in the L shell, K shell has the least energy. L shell has energy greater than K. M shell has energy greater than KL. And N shell has the energy greater than KL. Out of these four shells, which electrons has the greater energy? The electrons present in the outer shell has the greater energy. And the electrons always outer shell may or may not be L or M or N or O. But which electrons has the least energy? K shell. That means the first shell. There is no change. So the electrons present in the K shell. That is first shell. So you have to remember what are the things. There is the names of some scientists, some new words. So you have to these terms, the structure of our atom, you have to learn by heart. Then only you can study the chemistry. Then for studying this in detail, first you have to make the structure of our atom. The coming classes, I will show you how to make the structure of atom by using string, cardboard and wires. Then you have to make the same model in your car, in your house. Then take the picture and upload in the WhatsApp. So once again, I take this. What are the new terms or new words you have to learn in this chapter? First of all, the three fundamental. Up to Dalton's period, up to John Dalton's theory, he stated that atoms are indivisible. Later, by the experiments conducted by J.J. Thomson, Goldstein and Rutherford, they proved that atoms contain some charged particles. Later, by the experiments, he named it as these charged particles, they named it as electrons and protons. Then the scientist named James Chadwick find the presence of a neutral particles also in the atom. This neutral particle is known as neutron. Then we can come to conclusion. What's the conclusion? What are the three fundamental particles present in the atom? What's the answer? The three fundamental particles present in an atom are protons, electrons and neutrons. Protons, electrons and neutrons. You have to repeatedly say and become familiar with these words: protons, electrons and neutrons. Likewise, you have to learn by heart the names of scientists who discovered the presence of these particles. The presence of electrons was discovered by scientists. J.J. Thomson, electron, J.J. Thomson, proton, Rutherford, neutron, Chadwick. Then their charges. What are the two charged particles inside the atom? The two charged particles inside the atoms are proton and electron. What is the neutral particles present in an atom? The neutral particles present in an atom is called neutron. The neutral particles of an atom is called neutron. Then came who successfully prepared the model of an atom. Several attempts were made by several scientists. They were failed. The scientists who made an atom which completely explained, which satisfactorily explained the properties of atom, was made by the scientist named Niels Bohr. Niels Bohr's model was nowadays we are using. What is the name of Niels Bohr's model? The Niels Bohr model is also known as Bohr model of atom. The Bohr model of atom, he proved that the center of an atom is called nucleus. The center of an atom is called. Which are the particles present in the center of an atom? Protons and neutrons. How they occupy? Protons and neutrons. Protons are in positive charge. It's in between protons. There we can see the neutrons also. This is nucleus. Nucleus contains protons and neutrons. These two particles are also known as nucleons. Nucleons means particles present in nucleus. Proton. Where we can see the presence of electrons. Electrons are revolving around the nucleus in definite paths. What is the name of the path? Shells. What are the main shells? K, L, M, N. Which shell is near to the nucleus? K shell. Which is the second shell? L. Which is the third shell? M. Which is fourth shell? N. The first shell K, second shell M, L, third shell M, and fourth shell. These shells are also called energy levels. Why? The electrons situated in these shells have different energy. For example, electrons present in the K shell has the least energy, they are very close to the nucleus. Comparing to the K shell, the energy of the electrons present in the L shell is greater than K. Comparing to K and L, the electrons present in the M shell are greater energy and the L shell is the highest shell. Then, in this class, you must remember these names. So, today itself, I am giving you a homework. You must press a column. First column, name of particle. Second column, the scientist, name of scientist. The third column, charge of the particles. And fourth column, mass of the particles. So today you have to, this is very important. The number of electrons, number of protons, and number of neutrons in every atom is also very important. As well as the charge is also very important. You have made by head. You have made to make the model of different atoms of different elements. Then you can get a complete idea, thorough idea about it. So today itself, you have to prepare a chart like this and put up this table in your notebook using scale. What's the name of the particles? One proton, electron, neutron. Though the sets of electrons are pointed first in classroom, yeah, this is do you have to number in the order proton, electron, neutron. By PEN, pen, proton, electron, proton P, electron E, neutron PEN. So you have to number it this way, never forget it. Proton, electron, and neutron. Three columns. Then the second column, the names of the scientists: proton, Rutherford, electron, J.J. Thomson, neutron, Chandler. Chandler particles: positive, negative, neutral. Mass of the particle: 1, negligible, 1. Each particle, 1 proton, 1 neutron. Then today itself you have to. Then in the question, in the passage, you can make a number of questions. You ask yourself. Then what is center of atom? What are nucleons? Which are the particles are? What is the positive particle present in the atom? Which is the negative particle present in the atom? Which is the neutral particle present in the atom? The path of the electrons are called dash. What is the another name of the shells? Which shell has the electron situated in which shell has the least energy? The electron situated in which shell has highest energy? So you have to ask yourself and try to find out the answers. Then we can see the next class. First you will have to learn the names, scientists, charge, and position. Okay? Thank you. You can see the next class.